Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will be looking at the horoscope of Syria and the president who fell, who lost his power, Bashar Al Assad. Well, when I looked at the horoscopes of the country and of the president, well, these are difficult horoscopes, I will tell you. We don't have the horoscope of we don't have the time, the exact time of birth of Bashar al-Assad, but we have the time of creation of Syria. Of course, let me remind to you, this is ancient Assyria. This is part of ancient Mesopotamia. In the last many years, these people suffer a lot, and wars take place there, and all this have ancient reasons, ancient roots. Syria has very difficult horoscope, and maybe I will start with the horoscope of Syria. Remember, Syria was destroyed one time in our recent modern history, and this is due to this very heavy horoscope. It is encoded in the horoscope, I will tell you for sure. Many prophecies speak about Syria. I remember Baba Vanga said the following. She died in 1996, and Baba Vanga is so much quoted, and most of the quotes you read are fake. In Russian, in English, people quote Baba Vanga, usually fake, but I'm sure she said one thing for certain, and she said, now I will translate literally from Bulgarian, she said, stone over stone will not be to find, will not be left in Syria. She said Syria will be completely destroyed. Whether she meant back then, when in 2009, I think, when was it, Syria was destroyed one time, or she would say this to be valid for now, I don't know, but the horoscope will say a little bit more. Let's start with the horoscope of Syria, and then we'll be looking at the horoscope of Bashar al-Assad. So I'm sharing my screen with you, and I will explain to you what I see. First of all, just to tell you the time and date of creation of Syria, 1977, 26th February to 25 a.m. Is the official time of birth of Syria. So here you go. This is the horoscope of Syria. Now you see the horoscope has ascendant 24 degrees Scorpio. First, to tell you, ascendant is as important in the mundane astrology as it is important in the personal horoscopes. The ascendant is house of life. This is the nation. This is the safety. These are the people. Mars is ruling Scorpio. Of course, Mars and Pluto, but let's look at Mars first. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, but he's invisible and very heavily afflicted by Saturn. And I tell you, Saturn is more powerful because Saturn is in a position above the horizon, and because Saturn is in a smaller degree, he's retrograde too. So Saturn is afflicting heavily, yes, exalted, but invisible Mars. Invisible ascendant ruler. This puts you, if you are a person, not a country, but this is valid also for a country, this is putting you always in a position to be tricky, to try to survive, always to be very strategic, like you will be the master of diplomacy and strategy really with this. Because you will be always, forever, in a state of surviving, in a survival mode. And this is very exhausting. This is the ascendant of Syria, unfortunately. The degree of the ascendant is very powerful. You have the star Sabik on the horizon. You have projection of a powerful star. The degree itself is powerful. That's why Syria had also their golden age and golden times before this first and then second destruction. So this is very critical, that the ascendant ruler is invisible, and secondly afflicted by fallen Saturn. Fallen Saturn is very, very difficult, and Saturn in a night horoscope is even more difficult. So this is extremely difficult, and I tell you, Saturn is in the ninth house, which show that the attacks, the difficulties, the troubles always come from abroad. Always, because of the nature of the ninth house. Ninth house, of course, is the international relationships. You know, this is the abroad. The moon, which is the dispositor of Saturn, on the other hand, is exalted, very well placed, which shows that people, the nation, is always represented by the moon in the mundane astrology. So people are very smart. Yes, Arabs are smart. These people speak the second more difficult language in the world. I tell you, I study Arabic for years, and I still cannot talk properly. This is the most ever difficult language, and this shows how smart these people are. And you see the moon is exalted in the 12th degree, and this is also powerful degree, only 3 degrees away from Aldebaran. In general, the Arabs are ruled by Taurus, by Venus, and this is appropriate placement of the moon, and shows that they had the opportunity to make money, and they appreciate beauty, good food, Syria. Also, the trine between Mars and Moon says the same. Exalted Venus, you see the dispositor of the moon is exalted, so this gives some longevity of the nation, but not enough, because in order to have longevity you need Saturn. Saturn is the most important, because he is in the planetary hierarchy, he is on the top, he is the seventh, and he has the highest hierarchy. He is the Lord of Tears, he is the Lord of Longevity, he is the Lord of Time, he is the Lord of Justice, he is the judge on the sky. When he is fallen, this means troubles, especially when it comes to longevity of the nation. Then you have also conflict between Saturn and Uranus, and when you have conflict between Saturn and Uranus is the divine wisdom, this is troublesome, and this for sure will not denote longevity, and this shows that the nation has karmic lessons. Unfortunately, I say this with heavy heart, but these people go through these lessons because of historical karma. I give you example. You see, from my culture, but the example is applicable. We were 500 years on the Balkans, Bulgarians, Serbians, but we, the Bulgarians, were 500 years under Turkey, Ottoman, the Ottoman era, the suppression, 500 years. And it looks like historical event. We were occupied by them, and this happens, wars all over the world, nothing illogical here. But then there is always the spiritual reason. The decision always happens first on the sky. And Master Ben Sedunus said, before the Ottoman era, we had the Bogomils. The Bogomils are the ones who later were known in France like Catars. These were the ones who really these are the true spiritual masters who were awakening the world, who they were Christians, and the Bogomils, the Catars in France, they are the reasons behind the Renaissance in Europe. The Bogomils were amazing spiritual masters, and we in Bulgaria, Master Ben Sedunus said, we betrayed them. They were killing them here on our volcanic lands, the Bogomils. And then he said, because you were killing the Bogomils, later on you were given to suffer karmically, the 500 years of Ottoman suppression. 500 years, can you imagine? Not 500 years Ottoman suppression, because we deserved this. And it was the decision made in the spiritual realms, and later it took place on Earth, so 500 years suppression. When I look at the horoscope of Syria, some similar things occur, in my mind. Historical are the reasons. Karma. You see, Saturn is in conflict. Saturn is the lord of the karma. He is fallen. He is square, exact square. Look, Saturn is in the 18 degree Cancer, Uranus 18 degree Libra. We are speaking here about serious conflict. Uranus is the divine wisdom. Saturn is the karma. Unfortunately, these poor people there suffer some karmic lessons with something that they did wrong in the past. The same what happened to us, in Bulgaria. The same. And 500 years, we paid 500 years. So that's why for so many years they're paying too, and unfortunately it's happening now. Why now is the question. If we look solely at, first of all, when you have bad Saturn, I don't need to tell you this, you always have to pay heavy karma, difficulties. This always promises challenges in people's lives, in nations' lives, and so. Even though people are very smart, beautiful, they appreciate beauty, and they also can make money, with this moon in the vicinity of Aldebaran. So they can have beautiful lives. But look, when Saturn is in this position, there is one thing I will tell you. Saturn is the one who allows. So you can be given the opportunities. Look, Venus is exalted. Beauty, beautiful women, beautiful people who can create good art, for example. And exalted moon. I mean, this is so good. But when Saturn is placed difficult in the horoscope, he is not allowing things to take place. Like, he is the one who creates the limitation. He says, yeah, okay, you have beautiful people, you can create beauty, you have beautiful artists, good food, good everything. But you have the karma, and Saturn will not allow this always. He will be creating limitations. There are remedies. Yes, in personal horoscopes, I give powerful remedies. But for a country, this is the collective. People really need to collectively to pay the karma, or to be very awake to understand the karma, This is the thing. At that time when we were killing the Bogomils on our land, people didn't know what they're doing, and we paid after that 500 years. This is just an example to illustrate to you how the universal karma works for the countries, not for people. Imagine for people how responsible we are for every deed. Imagine we now with our horoscopes are paying or responsible for our previous actions, and now with our actions we are building our next horoscopes. It's just like that. So fallen Saturn is always difficulties, and fallen Saturn afflicting invisible Mars. This is really difficult. Let me tell you more. Remember Pluto entered Capricorn, and he entered Capricorn already 3 years ago. And can you imagine what will happen when in 7-8 years Pluto will make a conjunction with the natal Mars? I don't want to think about this. This will be very, very difficult for Syria. The situation is not over with Syria. This is not going to be quick. It may take long, unfortunately. What happened now recently? Mars now is was stationary, I think, on the 8th. Today Mars is retrograde. After he was stationary, and he was stationary here on the nebula of Cancer, which is 10th 11 degree. Mars was stationary. I made separate video on this. This is not conjoining the natal Saturn, but it is enough. Stationary Mars is very critical, very critical. I'm always very worried from stationary Mars. Look, stationary, he only made sextile to the moon. Exact sextile, because the moon is also in the 11-12 degree. Stationary Mars only formed sextile, and look what happened to Syria. But this, of course, is not enough. Let me tell you what also happened. I told you, Saturn and Uranus are in a square. Heavy situation. And look, Uranus is in Taurus, which is the moon sign of Syria. And this is and squaring the sun of Syria. And the sun is fallen. What to tell you more, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I also look, I made the chart of the planetary cycles. How I work with the planetary cycles, just to tell you, because some people wrote in the comments previously, why, if you are using Babylonian astrology, why are you applying the Indian cycles? I apply also the ancient Greek cycles to see which one work more. And I will tell you, the Firdar, which is the old Greeks, actually it's also Arabic cycles, work. But I noticed with my own personal experience, I've been using all of them just to check which one work better. And the Indian planetary rulership cycles work better. This is why to the Babylonian astrology I apply the Indian cycles, because they work very well in combination with the heliacal phases of the Babylonians. The heliacal phases are known only to the Babylonian astrology. No one else who understands well the heliacal phases. They are wrong. They generalized. The Greeks later on completely destroyed astrology by applying, they forgot the rule of the heliacal phases of the planets, and they started applying common rule on the heliacal phase, which is wrong. So the phases are known to the Babylonian astrology, but the planetary cycles are best. This is my own perception coming from my own experience. To me, the Babylonian the Babylonian phases and the Babylonian zodiac works wonderfully with the Indian planetary rulership and the sublords. So I applied this, and let me tell you what is happening now as we speak. This is end of 2024. You know, Syria is ruled by Jupiter as a main ruler, but the second ruler since the beginning of 2024 is Rahu. This is never easy, and I tell you what, in July of 2026, Saturn takes over, and this is not over with the situation in Syria. Remember, Saturn, it means total international attack. Saturn is in the 9th house fallen, making opposition to Mars. I will tell you one thing, Saturn, Mars, when in opposition, it's always war. In people's horoscopes, this is war. War in a way, in a sense of hardship, events. Depends, of course, how Saturn is placed, how Mars is placed. But here, this is 9th, 3rd house situation, which involves foreign countries, foreign lands, and Mars is ruling the ascendant, and Mars is invisible and heavily afflicted. It is good at least that Mars is exalted, but he's invisible, and this is very, very difficult. So you see, no wonder this happens now with the stationary Mars. Unfortunately, I'm worried that only in 2026 Saturn comes as main planetary ruler, and the sub-ruler will be also Saturn, and the third ruler will be also Saturn. So this will be, my God, very heavy. So I hope I'm not right. It doesn't look to be the ending of this situation. Prophecies you have about Syria, as many as you want. Baba Vanga prophecy, you see she said what I told you, but also the Vyacheslav, the Russian angel, also said things. I hope none of this is correct, but this square is saying about some karma that has to be paid. And it's not a square only, it's a T-square. Look, it's a T-square. Saturn, Uranus, Mars. These are the three malefic planets. And the fact that Uranus entered Taurus, Pluto entered Capricorn, of course, there will be this trine, between, we have here Uranus, you have Neptune, you have this sextile, trine and then sextile, which shows some divine help indeed. We mentioned this previously. Also, when was this? There is another event, you see, because Saturn is changing sign. Saturn now is in Aquarius, but he's changing sign. And on 6th of April, invisible Saturn is entering Pisces. And then on 12th of July, Saturn and Neptune in the 7th degree Pisces are forming conjunction, which is always, see, Saturn Neptune will be on the lower meridian of Syria. Always revolutionary. I will make separate video on this, but I tell you, many events. Okay, let me just mention a few. 1989, Saturn Neptune conjunction, Berlin Wall. 1952, Putin is born. Polio virus. The Great Smog in the UK in the 1952. 1917, Russian Revolution. You had Neptune Saturn conjunction, my God. 1882, Anglo war. I have to check. I made a list with events. Wars, revolutions. So this, this horoscope is designed for wars. Mars, Saturn opposition with these placements of Mars and Saturn, and with this heliacal phase of Mars conjoined Mercury, if you want. You see, this is designed, this is a promise for war. In personal horoscopes, this is promise for trouble, danger all the time, conflicts all the time. Okay, now let's move to the horoscope of Bashar Al Assad, who yesterday fell. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the horoscope of Bashar Al Assad. We don't know the time of birth, but to become king, you need to have similar placement of what I see. This is, of course, we don't know the time of birth. I was moving the horoscope, I was placing the sun under the horizon, but then it didn't make a lot of sense. Of course, we can sit for hours or days and rectify the horoscope, but it doesn't make much sense to lose the time, because we see some things already now when we derive the horoscope from the moon. Why this happened to him now, just now? First of all, you see, also for him, Uranus is in Taurus, is conjoining his Rahu, and is afflicting basically the axis of karma, the axis of karma. Uranus, in Taurus, and this is rare. And then Uranus is making a square to the Sun. He has Sun, Pluto, Uranus, Mercury in a heliacal phase. Mercury disappeared 7 years after he was born. So this stellium, you'll see Sun in Leo, super powerful. Pluto, Uranus. Some people say that Pluto is exalted in Leo. I don't know. I don't really know. But Pluto, Uranus, Sun, Mercury in a heliacal phase is already a recipe for kingship. This is for sure. Saturn is also in Aquarius, very, very powerful. But Saturn is in a heliacal phase called cosmic setting, which makes Saturn a little bit angry. Saturn retrograde is not a problem. The cosmic setting is a problem. See, his Venus is so powerful. He has fallen Mars. Okay, if we derive the horoscope from the moon, and if the moon really is in Aquarius, Now we have heavy affliction of Saturn transiting to the moon. And Saturn Uranus opposition, you see, if you remember, I mentioned in the horoscope of Syria, Saturn Uranus square. The opposition is a little bit less dangerous and afflicting, but it also shows that he is now paying heavy karma. Why this happened now? Let's look again at the Lord of War, Mars. Mars, we don't know if the ascendant is a Scorpio, but Mars in the 10th, 11th degrees just now was stationary, now is retrograde in Cancer, affecting his natal fallen Mars. At the same moment, Saturn, who is already direct, is afflicting his moon from the opposition of Saturn, Moon, Uranus, Pluto, Sun. He is a king because he is born also on the full moon. He's born on this. This is very powerful horoscope. Very, very. He was a king in a past lifetime too. This I can explain to you. Yeah. But this is a long conversation. But he was a king. It's nothing new. He is king in this lifetime, but he has to pay some karma, and his horoscope fits in a way to the horoscope of Assyria. This is why he's king of Syria, of Assyria. So you see the retrograding, the stationary Mars makes heavy aspect to the stationary, to the natal fallen Mars, and I explained to you also the other placements. This is why this is happening now. See, Saturn is now conjoining, the transiting Saturn is conjoining his moon from the full moon. This is afflicting the whole axis of power. Let's say that this is not the ascendant. Again, the full moon is always axis of power. Very, very much, very powerful. I would think that this would be approximately the placement of his houses. We cannot look at planetary cycles and time lords, because for this we need to know the exact time. Like I mentioned to you, we can always rectify, but this is big work. For some horoscopes, the rectification when we have the past events takes 2 hours. For others, it takes long. I remember when I was rectifying the horoscope of my father, it took me weeks, and in the end I managed, but it took me weeks. This is why it doesn't really make sense to lose the time. So this is his afflicted right now. Whether this will be his end, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you honestly, but this is a very difficult momentum for him. Very difficult. When Saturn enters on 6th of April Pisces, again, he will be then also in Sadasati. Not very easy situation as well, but not as difficult as now. But whether this is the end, I am not sure, but could be, because of this interesting concentration of planets which are afflicted now. Like too many planets are afflicted now. So for sure, this is not easy period for him. Even very difficult period. And you see, Mars will be, I tell you, Mars will be for a very long time now moving back and forth. Gemini, Cancer. You see, on the 17th of January, the retrograde Mars is entering Gemini. On 25th of February, he is becoming direct. On the 21st degree, Gemini in the vicinity of Sirius. But this is squaring his natal Saturn. Exact square. When Mars will be direct, he will square his natal Saturn. Not good. This could be another attack on him, or further problems. It's a square, you see, not good. Even in Gemini, Mars is not good. On 7th of April, 7th of April, finally, Mars enters Cancer, direct Mars already. And on 8th of June, Mars is entering Leo. Very heavy also for him. 8th of June, to stay here and to do further damage. So this will not be easy. I am not very optimistic. Not very optimistic for the development, whether he will regain power. I don't. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Um, well, ladies and gentlemen, what to tell you? This is not. This is sad for Syria, for for the people. Well, all the best to you. Bye bye.